Everyone who has ever played Rare's classic Donkey Kong Country knows that it's a pretty difficult game. Difficult, but fun. Unfortunately, Donkey Kong Country doesn't make the top 10, because it's actually its successor, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, that takes the number 6 spot. Donkey Kong Country 2 took everything that the first had to offer and made it better, and also introduced us to a new member in the Kong family, Dixie. The levels are more challenging, the graphics are better, hell, even the music is better. Most consider the music from the second game the best out of the original 3, and I'm going to have to agree with them. Donkey Kong Country may have set the bar for platformers with its difficulty, fun factor, impressive score, and fake 32-bit look back in the day, but Donkey Kong Country 2 took that bar, strapped it to a rocket, and launched it into outer space. Sorry about that, Deacon. Arguably the best Kirby game in existence, this game is actually a bunch of smaller games in one cartridge, each with its own unique story and setting. The longest of the games is the Cave Offensive, but that's only if you're trying to find all of the treasures scattered throughout. Basically a treasure hunting adventure platformer where you have to defeat bosses, solve puzzles, and navigate through obstacles to get the treasure. But my favorite of the games included is Milky Way Wishes, in which you travel from planet to planet, finding ability trophies rather than copying abilities by inhaling enemies. Each planet is unique in its setting, and some of them have the trophies hidden away pretty well. In this game, there's even a side-scrolling shmup stage, which I think is pretty awesome. Also, the end boss music is one of my favorite tunes of all time. All in all, this game is just a ton of fun. I mean, it's a Kirby game, how can you go wrong? And it has a lot of replay value, proven by how many times I've rented this game from the local video store when I was a kid. When I think of Super Metroid, other than remembering nearly peeing my pants with excitement when I got my hands on the game for the first time, I think of the epic opening for the title screen, and that chilling music. I think of completeness and a rock-solid gameplay experience. At the time of its release, this was the biggest game offered on the SNES, coming on a whopping 24 megabit cartridge. The game's map is quite expansive. In fact, I think it's the biggest out of all of the 2D Metroid games, so you know there's plenty of variety in the environments. I've always loved the idea of non-linear gameplay since the first Metroid on the NES, and Super Metroid definitely does not disappoint in this respect. The huge, creepy environments coupled with the great and totally fitting soundtrack make it really easy to get immersed in the game. Super Metroid does a really good job of giving you the feeling of solitude on a strange and alien planet. Even after all these years, I can still replay this game and have tons of fun. Not only that, the game actually still holds up today. Now that is an impressive feat. Again, I'm not going to give away any key details about this one. I seriously recommend playing this one, or at least watching some more in-depth videos on YouTube. When people talk about great RPGs on the SNES, they're talking about this game. Well, as far as content goes anyway. See, this game was never released outside of Japan and the PAL territories, and there are many gamers who have never heard of this gem. It was developed by the same guys who made ActRaiser, Soul Blazer, and Illusion of Gaia, which is a pretty impressive lineup for the SNES if I do say so myself. The first thing I noticed about this game when I first played it was the level of detail in the sprite animations and the cutscenes used between chapters. I wasn't even aware that a 16-bit console could handle something so beautiful. As with most RPGs, you're fighting for the world. And you may be thinking, sure, saving the world in an RPG is always fun, but, well, stop right there. Terranigma goes one step further as its story entails bringing the world back to life from the jaws of death. You will resurrect the Earth by your own hands and witness the progression of life itself, from the first stages of evolution to the present day. Yes, I said Earth, that planet we live on. You'll be visiting places named after real-life locations, and it really helps draw you into the game. I hadn't experienced a game so deep and enthralling before this one. There's tons more I can say about this one, but I'll leave it at that for the sake of time. And my favorite game of all time on the SNES is... Yes! I know that there's a very good chance that most of you saw this coming from miles away, and to that I say, well, then you know how good this game is. Even if not for anything else, This game would claim the top spot simply from the countless hours of entertainment it has given me over the years. This was one of my very first experiences with the RPG genre, the first being Final Fantasy VI. The initial pull of the game was its impressive graphical style using pre-rendered models and the isometric perspective, and with one of gaming's most beloved icons being thrown into a totally different situation than anyone was used to. But I stayed for the uniqueness of this title and the incredible replay value the game has to offer. This is another game that I rented countless times from the video store. I played it through so many times, yet I never get bored of the story, the towns, the characters, the music. Speaking of, the score is catchy and unforgettable and was composed by Yoko Shimomura, who has worked on other popular games such as Parasite Eve, Legend of Mana, and Kingdom Hearts, just to name a few. Nintendo and Square really took a gamble when making this game, seeing as having a Mario-themed RPG was completely new at the time, and this was being released only mere months before the giant known as Super Mario 64. If you want a polished, well-rounded, complete Super Nintendo game, look no further than Super Mario RPG.